We appreciate being here. Thank you.
Next up, in honor of Black History Month, we explore the impact African American soldiers had on the outcome of the Civil War. We're talking about the soldiers who made up the ranks of the U.S. colored troops, better known as the USCTs. Some were former slaves, others free men. WTVI PBS Charlotte is proud to share WBTV reporter and independent producer Steve Crump's newest documentary called Quiet Valor and Silent Strength, which examines the role these men played during the American conflict of the 1860s. Steve joins me now with more.
Thanks, Amy. Some historians have estimated their numbers somewhere in the neighborhood of 200,000. They achieved many groundbreaking roles, not just in the U.S. Army, but also in the Navy. And we spent time with one group dedicated to keeping their memory alive. Charleston, South Carolina's harbor offers a timely and scenic backdrop. It is where reenactors and admirers of the USCT chartered a tour boat to a destination of meaning. On the way to an esteemed location of such cultural legacy, Joe McGill of the 54th Massachusetts Reenactors shares a reflective lesson linking history and heritage.
There was Frederick Douglass who had a meeting with President Abraham Lincoln, and he stated to President Abraham Lincoln that trying to fight the battle without the black man is like trying to fight the battle with one arm tied behind your back.
This group isn't heading to just any locale, but one of soul-searching introspection. Passing Fort Sumter, where the first shots of the Civil War were fired, evokes heartfelt curiosity. But coming into view across the channel is Morris Island. The soil here is where a number of fallen members of the 54th Massachusetts Volunteers took their last breaths.
I'm still to this day amazed at how active and involved, black soldiers were in this particular area.
Morris Island is home to Fort Wagner, and the very place that brought the story of the USCTs to life in the 1989 Oscar-winning film, Glory.
Fort Wagner is a hugely important moment. I think it's now the one we know the most about because of the wonderful movie Glory. It's the image that comes to mind.
Reenactors from the 54th are committed to never allowing the memory of those who fought at the stronghold of the Confederacy to fade away. That's why tributes are held every year on this island.
We know more about the men of the 54th because most of those men were educated prior to the Civil War. They could be educated. It was legal for them to be educated. While the recollections of artists at Fort Wagner reveal heavy fighting, historians say battlefield accounts spell out the fact that African American servicemen were the first to charge the fort.
The 54th Massachusetts did not include former slaves. These were men who had grown up in freedom and were recruited in the North.
A salute of gunfire, a wreath of remembrance, and the refrain of this defiant spiritual inspires reflection during a somber occasion.
And before I'll be a slave, I'll be buried in my grave and go home to my Lord and be free.
The visit to Morris Island didn't end their mission. Reenactors representing Company I at the 54th had one more stop to make in Charleston.
Company, rest on arms, march!
In June of 2015, 9 African Americans were slain during an evening of Bible study, including the congregation's minister, Clemente Pinckney, at Mother Emanuel AME Church. Having a presence at this place of worship seemed only fitting for those who honor the 54th Massachusetts Volunteers. The Charleston 9 also holds a very special place in their hearts.
They were sacrificial lambs for the cause of justice and freedom.
Thanks, Steve, for sharing that clip with us. Help us understand a little bit. There's so much to learn by tying the past with those present situations.
I think in a lot of respects, especially with the situation at Mother Emanuel Church, those people in Charleston, they felt just an connection, and it was very moving to get off a boat and then go down to John Calhoun Avenue in Charleston and see what they did in front of that church. And that was very touching in terms of them showing reverence for the people who lost their lives back in June of last year.
Help us understand just how large a numbers are we talking beyond the impact of the soldiers from Carolinas?
Well, you know, again, nationally, some historians have put the number right at 200,000, but these were people that fought everywhere in terms of the actual units from Rhode Island to Louisiana. At the end of the Civil War, there were 18 African Americans to win the Medal of Honor. So in that regard, those are some of the facts that you don't necessarily get in your high school history books.
And it really is great how you're able to make history come to life in these documentaries. Steve Crump, we appreciate you sharing your stories with us.
All right, thank you.
Quiet Valor and Silent Strength airs on PBS Charlotte Tuesday, February 16th at 8:30 and will rebroadcast Saturday, February 20th at 5 p.m. Well, we've